on onto the scheduled please go to Phil Jones's live. I'll have to learn this stuff better. Okay, someone says hi here, Cape Breton Linus. So a few people have found us. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm a noob, technical noob. I'll wait for a few people. Hi, Ellie. Thanks for being here. I could not figure out how to log into the scheduled. I think there may be 2 lives open. Oh, so somehow, I don't know, I've messed it all up. I'll try to learn better. So, all right. So I'll do a little intro. Other people can, while we're waiting for, if you back out of that. There you are. Okay, here we go. My name is Phil Jones. I'm an ex-scientologist, and we're here in beautiful Niagara Falls, right near the falls. Actually, you can see the American Falls over there and the Rainbow Bridge. We're going to walk down to the Canadian Falls and get right up close, but it's the long weekend, so it's really crowded here. We were lucky to get a parking spot, but we managed, and we're going to walk over a little kind of walkway. While I'm walking, I'm going to talk a little bit about how Scientology and Niagara Falls are related. You know, just how it relates to Niagara Falls a little bit. But we'll cover a little bit about Niagara Falls' interest to people. So we'll go over to the falls. Take a few minutes to get over there, and so what I'll do, talk to get over there. It's really beautiful here. Actually, I'll flip it over. I'm going to flip it over right now so you can see this. See if I can zoom in here. You can see the crowds. It's amazing. This is the long weekend here. That's the American Falls. I think that's the Rainbow Bridge. I never memorized, never really knew which bridges are which, but it's quite beautiful here. And then on this side, that's the river above the falls over there. They can't really see too well with the sun here, but the wrong way. There used to be an old ship that had wrecked just above the falls there a long time ago, and finally broke up this year or last year. It was all rusted out. So let me just switch this back here. So, so this is where Niagara Falls is. This is a from Fort Erie, which is at Lake Erie, all the way down to which is the other end of the. Now we're in the gift shop. Not buying any gifts today. So lots of people. Oh, and Willie's with me too. I should This is Willie. We're, I promise I'll learn this better. I thought I had it down. I practiced it, but I could not figure out how to log in that thing. Anyway, here we are. You know, I haven't been on those boats either. I've seen them plenty of times. They've been around for years. So one day maybe. Yeah, we just have to go down one flight and then we'll walk outside to the falls. And we'll be able to get right up close to them. No barrels today. Oh, look here. Let me switch this over. There you go. That mist is always there. Oh, there's a rainbow. Let's move over a bit. You can see the rainbow. There you go. There's a treat. Niagara Falls with a rainbow. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that is kind of cool. And the crowds. There's a lot of people here. We're going to go down there. All right. All right, down one floor. Oh, I've been in the cave, Ellie, yeah. Well, I did that years ago. I've done it several times. When we were kids, my mother used to bring us out here and we would go to the those tunnels underneath the falls. You wear these big raincoats and boots and stuff. All right, here we go. All right, let me switch this over so we get the. There we go. All right. Oh, look at that rainbow too. That's kind of cool. Yeah, you can. Oh, really? You can't see the rainbow on there? A little bit, you can. Wow. Welcome to Niagara Falls on a long weekend. All right, let's see what we can see. Here we go. Oh, that's kind of cool to see the rainbow like that. Sorry, excuse me. Oh yeah, that's a good. Oh yeah, good angle. See if I can zoom in a little. Oh, too much. Power of that water. Let's walk down a bit and get a view from down there.
Yeah.
So let me switch this around a bit just for a minute. So last week, my video was all shaky. And it's a little steadier today because I bought a gimbal. And that was another whole learning curve right there. I named it though. I named it Jimmy. Jimmy Gimbal. I laugh at my own jokes, I'm sorry. But yeah, definitely once I learn this thing, it's going to be a big, big benefit. Gimbal for the win. All right, let's see if we can figure out where to go here. Fall where we're going. That's the Skylon. Well, is that the Skylon? They call it Skylon Tower. And you can kind of go up there and get a good view, I guess. I don't think I've ever been up there. So here, whoops, that's the American Falls there. Now a little farther down to get a better view. All right, I promise I'll talk about Scientology as well. I just thought it. Oh yeah, so there are some boats down there. Let's have a look. There you go. Maid of the Mist. So there used to be a mission, Scientology mission in Niagara Falls. I think back in the late 70s and early 80s at that mission back then, for I think a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. And then shortly after that, I think it just shut down. And let me switch this. There we go. Scientologists that live in Niagara Falls, though. Not a huge number, but I have a brother and a sister that live here in Niagara Falls. They're both still in. My sister is OT8, top of the bridge. My brother is OT3, and they live maybe 10 minutes from us. And we've lived here for 5 years. I never see them. They avoid us. But I saw my brother once. I ran into him about 4 years ago, but he wouldn't have anything to do with me. That's the Scientology disconnection. It's just the way they're and then my sister's family, or sister's in-laws rather, husband and his kids, they're all in Scientology. In fact, United States, and we're probably, I'm not sure how far from the Buffalo org, but we're probably I don't know, maybe a half an hour to an hour from Buffalo org. And when they were, I think, either the first or the second ideal org for Scientology in the world. Might have been Johannesburg first, but Buffalo was one of the first. That was 2003, and then Buffalo actually had a grand opening of their ideal org in 2012 or 13, I think, or 14, somewhere in there. Like the first one didn't work. I don't know. So so they've been ideal for a long time. I'm going to take a trip over there, and we'll do a bit of live stream over at the Buffalo org one of these days soon, and just see how busy they are. I know Buffalo org. Fuzzy pink handcuffs. I will go there and check it out. We'll do a live stream over there. Yeah, they lived in, like, from Niagara Falls. They would drive over every day to the Buffalo, Oregon, and be on staff over there. But they haven't done that for years. Back around then, or shortly after, maybe around 2008, we were living in Florida before we got disconnected from. I drove up here on my motorcycle from Florida and stayed at my sister's, and there were a couple of guys from Buffalo, Oregon that came out to basically reg my sister, but she stayed in the house. She wanted me to get rid of them, so not very committed on giving money, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to turn this around because there's a nice view from here. So this is Falls. Here we go. And you can see one of the boats going under there. That's one of the Maid of the Mists. It's amazing that. So the falls, they lose, I think, about a foot a year. It moves back. If you go downriver about 7 miles, 10,000 years ago, that's where the falls were. And they used to lose a lot more than a foot a year. I think it's actually, they've got it down to maybe 3 or 4 inches, because what they do is they divert water from the river to provide hydroelectricity. There's this whole area. In fact, they call their utilities for electricity here, they call it hydro. They don't call it electric bill, they call it a hydro bill. So anyway, just a little tidbit, but yeah, it's a fascinating area. There's a lot of history here. This was a big area for the War of 1812, and anybody has any questions for me, just put the word question in there. I can see, I'm wearing my other glasses today, so it goes by pretty quick, but I can see the comments that come in. So, it is a beautiful day here. Temperature is spectacular. The sunny, just incredible day. We're lucky to see all the rainbows in the mist there. That's kind of cool. A little bit more and see what we can see.
Before I go to Shrine.
So, yeah, we're also about, if we go kind of west or northwest from here, is where the Canadian Sea Org facility is. They call it the CLO, Commodore, whatever it is, liaison, or Continental Liaison Org. So I've got a nephew who's in the Sea Org, my sister's son, and he's been in the Sea Org for years. So if he's still in, and I think he is, but I'm not sure, then that's where he's working. So, but we went out there a couple of times, but it's pretty quiet. They rented an old church, like a church, and they've got some office space in the back. The most cars I've ever seen there, maybe 3 or 4. When they used to be out in Guelph, which is about an hour, a little over an hour from here. That's where the Sea Org was, in a bigger building. And I think they had more staff back then, but it's all shrinking. So, but you know, they should be out here. Look at all these people. All these people. It'd be a field day for Scientology recruitment. Why aren't they handing out Way to Happiness books here? Oh, somebody has a question? Can you have your mods post your email address? I want to send you an audio link. Right. I don't necessarily want to post my email address on. If you, I'll figure out a way to that you can reach me. Question. I think I've known the answer to this at some point, but what was your catalyst for leaving? Oh, sure. I can talk about that a little bit. Willie and I were never really the best Scientologists. We were always kind of fringe. When we moved to Florida and we were living there right on the doorstep of Flag for 25 years, we never did any services down there. We were living in the environment. We considered we were Scientologists. our kids went to a Scientology school, but so we kind of were on the fringe a little bit anyway. And then towards, I guess, the early 2000s, we sort of made a decision that even though we considered we were still in, that we weren't going to do anymore, we weren't going to put any more money in it. And then one day I was in a out. So I was going into a 7-Eleven to buy a coffee, and there was a newspaper stand, and on the newspaper stand was the word Scientology in big bold letters, and I really wanted to read it, but I didn't dare. Scientology is a snitch culture, so if anyone saw me even looking at it too long, I was worried they would write me up. I didn't dare even pick one up and buy it. So I went home and I did some research on the internet, and I found all the Truth Rundown, 2009, I believe it came out. Read all the articles, and I think it was the thing, that video that Mark Bunker did with Jason Begay, where Jason basically said, "Show me a clear." And that was a thing for me. Because that was the thing that got me in the first place. When I read in Dianetics about the attributes of a clear, having perfect eyesight. I was a teenager with glasses, and I'd love to have good eyesight. Perfect memory, perfect computation. I wanted all that, and that's what got us in. And when I looked at that video, I mean, it's amazing I didn't sort of twig on that earlier, but when I saw that video, it was a switch for me, and I was out. I showed Willie the stuff, and after she got through it all, she was out as well. So we just pretended to be in after that, because we just didn't want to lose the kids. And we were actually under the radar for maybe 4 or 5 years, until my sister kind of discovered that we were not really in anymore. And sorry, gonna make the switch. Here we go. And then she turned us in, and that was it. So we were out at that point. And then everyone disconnected. That's when the kids disconnected, friends, business, everything. So we didn't have a choice at that point. You can't turn around and say, well, look, let's sit down and talk about it. They won't even let you have a conversation. So a nice fight. Dr. Mark in Texas, good afternoon to you too. So that's kind of how we got out. It was not a quick thing as far as the whole process, but as far as in my head, it was pretty instant at that point. We were kind of drifting off, but still in our heads we were Scientologists. But yeah, you can ask me anything. I'm an open book. I don't care. The only thing I guess I probably won't put out publicly is my email address, partly because I just don't want to get a lot of other, other people will see it. There's got to be a way. I'm not sure how. I think you can actually leave a message on YouTube, can't you? Maybe, or put something in the comments. Write something, at least acknowledge people commenting, or answer it if I can. So if you make a comment after the video is over, I'll look at it there. So, all right, let's walk a little further, and at some point you can set up a Gmail account specifically. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I actually do have an email address that I never use on Yahoo. Let me just think it over, and what I might do is put it in the information part of the YouTube there. Something. I'll see if I can figure out a way to get out there without it splashing out. But that might be something to do. Question: when did you move to Canada? Oh, about 5 years ago. We arrived here March the 1st, and we were living in Vegas at the time, And we kind of for a long time had wanted, like, we're Canadians, so we sort of had it in our minds that we were going to come back to Canada at some point. And you know, so what would it be, 2019, right? So we just kind of packed up and moved back. And how we ended up in Niagara Falls is kind of, I mean, we have family here. It's just, we kind of thought maybe we'd have a little more connection with family, but it hadn't really worked out like that. Yeah. We do have, Willie, on Willie's side, there's family out in Winnipeg, and we go out there every year, a couple of times a year. So, you know, there is family that we are connected to. And still in Florida, all our grandkids and great-grandkids live there. And we spent all of December last year there, so that was kind of nice. And we'll get down there again this winter. All right. Oh, nice to see everybody here. This is great. Okay. Yeah, ask me any more questions. So there's not a whole lot more about Niagara Falls and Scientology that... So right now we're up on what's called the escarpment. In this whole area of Ontario, there's like an escarpment is where the land kind of on one side drops and the other, so you got this big sort of cliff kind of thing, or hill going up, and it goes for, I think it goes for about 100 miles, and it ranges from 300 to 600 feet high. And then, so I think that's where the falls started about 10,000 years ago. But the escarpment was created, I think, about 400 million years ago, if I remember right. Back then, my memory's not so good. No, I think it was about, I'm sorry. No, it was a long time ago, way before the falls. The falls were created by about 13,000 years ago by the glacier. Glacier came down here, kind of scraped out the Great Lakes and dumped a bunch of water and stuff. And that's when the falls started. And it's been wearing, like I said, down river started about 10,000, 11,000 years ago. So, before they had an ideal order. So let's have, what's that? Are the falls coming down over time? Let's have a look around here. All right. Amazing. It is a beautiful day out here. Yeah, I know. Yeah. My sister had actually, a question, comment, filter, please have a question. Oh yeah, thanks, Ellie. My sister was living in Niagara Falls. We were living in Florida at the time. And we had kind of moved away from the Clearwater area a little bit. And then my sister had flown down. She called me up when she got to Florida and said she was just there for some stuff or whatever and wanted to just get together, sort of family thing. But for some reason, Willie and I were a little bit sort of hesitant because my sister's always been pretty hardcore Scientology, and we were living out of the area. In fact, my sister didn't really know where we lived. So, and she kept saying, well, I'll come down to you guys. I said, oh, no, it's like 3 or 4 hour drive, so you don't want to come down here. And then I talked to Willie and I said, basically, I don't want to be that guy who just doesn't get together with family. So I thought, let's go, we'll meet with my sister, and if it starts to go bad, then we'll just get up and come home. So we drove up to Clearwater and met her at the Starbucks downtown in Clearwater. And she actually, there were some people that we knew really well down there, a family that we were really close with. And my sister has a different last name than her married name. So I think this, my sister and I were related. And my sister had asked Flag for backup for whatever, like I've never been violent with anybody. We walked into the Starbucks and the family was there, and it was Friday morning, and they all worked. And I thought, what are they doing? Anyway, we walked up to them. We started giving them hugs and say, oh, yeah, nice to see you guys. I turned around and looked at my sister, and she had this look of horror on her face because we were hugging her back up. Well, it's like, oh, my God, it was bad. So anyway, so we sat down at a table with my sister, and we were starting to have our coffee, and first 5 minutes was fine, but really not long into the coffee, she started right into, oh, what about this? You know, you guys are connected to people you shouldn't be connected. You're, you know, when are you going to come down to demonstrating and doing barbecue? Hold on, I got to. I'll get back to that question. So anyway, so we went. So I said, look, let's go outside and talk about this. So we walked outside, started walking down the street, and I turned to Willie and I said, this is going to go bad. I just knew it was going to go bad. So I said, let's just go home. So I said to my sister, look, we're just going to go. So she turned around and came back right up to us, and she said, she was like, you got to go into flag and get handled right now and see the MAA, the ethics officer, or you're going to lose your kids. And I was like, I was shocked. I was like, if that happens, I said, if that happens, that's on you. You don't need to go down and report. So anyway, we turned around, walked back to the car, and we drove off. And then by the next day, everybody disconnected from us. Facebook friends, unfriended, business. I went to a guy I was doing work for, and he basically said, no, if you're not in good standing with Scientology, you can't work for me. So I think that's around the time we packed up and moved to Vegas. So, but it was amazing. They must have been calling people because it was overnight that it's just everybody disconnected. So, yeah, Scientology. It was just a whole program that they have. So demonstrating and doing a barbecue. Oh, so yeah, we can come to Toronto if there's an event coming up or something like that, like the last one or something. That right now it's a little difficult because Willie, she's working next couple of weeks, but after that we should be a little more freed up. So you know, let's stay in touch on that, and let me know, and then we'll figure out a time and we'll come down. Or you can come to Niagara Falls and we can kind of hang out here. And there's lots of places. We can go down to, like we're right next to wine country here, and we can go to the wineries and you know, have a glass of wine. And there's some of them have really good food in there too. So and that's nice. Sit out. There's one that we like, the Peller Estates, where you can sit outside, and it's like a grassy area. Right by the grapevines and stuff, stretching off into the distance. It's really, really pretty. So we can do that. But if there's a demonstration to do in Toronto, like there's not much to demonstrate out here unless I went and stood in front of my sister's property. They own a big campground on the edge of the Niagara Falls. I don't really want to go and demonstrate there, really. The only Scientologies they have they show out there is all their trash cans in the park have these signs on the side that have quotes, and most of them have Hubbard quotes. So I don't know what the campers think about that, but the other thing is that as far as Scientology activities, my brother and my sister, they both do those drug lectures in schools, like the drug-free world and all that kind of stuff. And lately, I think I've heard that they've been doing a lot in Toronto. They used to do a lot of them out here in Niagara Falls, and they usually try to ally themselves with the police force, or you know, some organization that'll give them some semblance of legitimacy or an appearance of legitimacy. They used to go in with the RCMP out here, but once the RCMP found out that they were Scientology from somebody who called, then the RCMP just cut them off. And not only cut them off out here, but called all their offices and said, don't deal with these guys, they're Scientology. So they still do their drug lectures in schools. And the thing that bothers me about that is back in 1969, I think it was late 69 or early 70, I think 69, I was a kid in school, high school, and there were a couple of, in a small town outside Toronto, and there were a couple of Scientologists that came out to do a drug lecture, and they had food afterwards, and I was a teenage kid, so I stayed, and that's basically when I got recruited. So, whenever anybody says, if any Scientologist said, well, they're just helping out by doing these drug lectures, they're recruitment, and they've been doing that type of recruitment. It's for, I know, at least since 1969, so, because that's how they got me in. And so I don't buy it that they're doing anything aside from making themselves try to look a little better and recruiting. They'll give out these brochures, but somehow or other it's all going to lead into Scientology, which is not good. So I missed a few questions in there, I think. Do we have any other children? Yes, we have another son, but he does prefer to stay out of the mix. He grew up in Scientology, and that was not easy for him. So at this point, we don't really bring him up, just because it's tough on him, the whole thing, and that's our bad, because we led the kids into Scientology. We didn't put them in, but we were in it, and they fell into it, bad enough. And I also put them into Scientology schools, so our bad on that. So we're just trying to kind of protect him a little bit from that. And but he does miss his brother and his sister, and it's hard on him, that too. The whole disconnection thing really, really is difficult on him as well. So so I hope that answers your question. Okay, we're no other questions in there. Okay, so yeah, I'll see. Maybe next week I'll go to Buffalo Ideal Org, doubly ideal. It's been ideal twice. 2003. I'm trying to remember the date. I think it was 2014. The fact that they are still being allowed to go into schools is horrific. Max's mom, yes, 100% horrific that they're allowed to go into schools, but they never mention who they really. They're just a sneaky bunch, and they won't mention Scientology. And if someone asks about Harvard, they say, "Oh, but we're not connected." That's it's totally unconnected. Yada yada yada. They lie. What? Yeah, I know. Willie said they enticed me with free food. I was a teenager and I was in sports. I was a swimmer, so I was eating whenever I could. So I'm there the next time. Thank you very much for showing. I appreciate all you guys for being here. I really do. I hope the whole Niagara Falls thing didn't make it too boring. I know that this is a kind of a Scientology-related channel, but I thought it might be kind of cool to see the falls. And I get down a little bit more here. But so what I could do as well, if anyone's interested, I got 40 years in, so there are some pretty, the one thing that amazed me throughout all those years is that, through all that, because I would buck that system all the time. Even, I would express my disagreement with things, but I had this little formula, or this little way to avoid getting in trouble. If I wasn't on staff and I was in the org and I knew I was going to get in trouble, I'd just go home and stay away for 3 or 4 days. And in Scientology, all it takes is 3 days for another big emergency to come up. And I was working against something, and I was pulled into the executive director's office. And there was, I think, 3 or 4 people in there, the Sea Org guy for the org, and the ED, and I think the ethics officer, or no, not the ethics officer, somebody else. Anyway, so they were all getting on me for this and that. And then the Sea Org guy says to me, he says, well, from here, you're going to report to the ethics office, and you're going to do an ethics program, the end result of which you're going to join staff. And I looked at him, I laughed. I mean, I just got up and I walked out and kind of slammed the door behind me and went home. 3 days later, I was back in the org, and I was walking past the ED's office, and she said, Phil, come here. So I went in her office and said, yeah. She said, weren't you supposed to report to ethics? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, right. And I walked out, and that was the last I heard of it. So I don't know how I skirted these things, and that was just one example of things that I don't know. I've been threatened. I was threatened along the years with being declared at times, but nobody ever did it. And I had it because I would have been out a lot earlier. And the kids might not have been a Sea Org. Probably wouldn't have, because that was way before that. And even when we were living in Flag, well, I think the kids were in the Sea Org then, but I was doing some work for Flag Renovations once. And I was doing the logistics for ordering and stuff. And one day I was just sitting there, and one of the top, I hope everybody's still there. I think we lost our signal for a second. Is everybody still there? Looks like it's still running. Yeah. Just showing.
Oh, you're good.
Can't hear you. Oh, yeah. CMO, the lady. Messenger, or the original Commodore's messengers were the ones that in Scientology. So the top person at Flag came into where I was at my desk and started screaming at me, just yelling at me. I go, what the hell is she talking about? She's like saying stuff that just wasn't true, that, oh, you did this and you did that. And I said, I didn't do any of that. So I stood up and I looked in her face. I said, I didn't do any of that. And I sort of raised my voice a little bit. And nobody in there raises their voice, because there were a lot of Sea Org people, but I got up and in this head of CMO's face, and the whole place just went silent. It was like, what is he doing? He's gone. He's done. So anyway, she just looked at me like sort of shocked, turned around and walked out. And then the next day, I got a phone call from my daughter, who was at the time in RTC working directly for Miscavige. So at that moment, which I guess in some ways is good, in some ways not. But again, I just skirted the whole getting declared thing. The final thing that got us was it's a whole Facebook thing. Back then in 2009, there were all these Facebook police that were reporting people for having Facebook friends who had left Scientology. And my sister would call us up once in a while and say, you need to unfriend that person or that person. And I'd just go, okay, I didn't want any friction. And then one day she said, you need to unfriend from this family. But we've known this family for 25 years. They were really nice people. And I said, no, they're nice people. We've known them for 25 years. I'm not going to disconnect from them. And that's what started the whole thing. So really, the fact that I wouldn't disconnect from friends is what caused our disconnection from everybody in Scientology. So I don't know, right or wrong. When we were in Florida last, we went and visited that family, and they're just really nice people. They took us out for dinner, and and they actually told us they're building a new house, and they said, look, anytime we're down there, come and stay with them. Just nice people. So we're still on, right? After that glitch.
Well, this is behind.
What?
This is behind. There's no new comments.
Yeah, I haven't seen any comments, so I wonder if we got. So you know what? I'm going to probably end the stream at this point. Let's do one last view of the falls. Oh, here. Glitching. Yes, we're still on. Oh, okay, they are on. Okay. I didn't realize. I know it glitched and kind of hung up and my thing started reconnecting and stuff. But yeah, it looks like we're still on. Oh, I can't take that call. Sorry. So that's the Canadian Falls, United States over there, and that's the American Falls. And that direction down there is downriver. If you go all the way down there, you get to Lake Ontario. And that bridge over there goes to the US. There's, I think, 3 or 4, all along the river, there's like 4 bridges. And there's one near where we live. We could be across the border in 5 minutes from where we are. And
There was one question.
yeah.
It was, were you Scientology public the whole time you were in?
No, Willie and I were both on staff back in the 70s at the Toronto org, which at that time was at 124 Avenue Road in Toronto. And that's it was that old, dark gray, it was an old funeral home, and still had like the old dark red carpets and the dark wood. And I know that sounds sort of could be nice, but it was old and it really, and smoky, because back then almost every Scientologist smoked. I never smoked in my life, and I had a hard time with it. Yeah, that would be kind of cool, actually. So when we joined staff, I guess it was 1972, late in 72. And Willie was the basic course supervisor, and I was the academy supervisor. And we started going out back then, and I had money at the time because I had worked up in the Yukon, and I was saved like quite a bit, and I was getting audited that was being paid for. So one day we were called into the executive director's office and told to separate because they considered that my dating Willie was a distraction from my aid auditing. So, and you have to kind of obey to a degree. And so we did for a short time, but after a bit I said, no, that's not right. And after we got back together, another time, not too far later, we were called back into the ED's office, and he had like, I think 4 or 5 of his staff, his senior executives, standing behind him. And he said, okay, come in, sit down. Willie and I sat down in front of his desk, and he said, so we know about your sex life, and we want to know details, every detail, start talking. And I looked at him, I said, oh no. I looked at Willie and I said, we're out of here. You sort of take the power, because it's very hierarchical. Or did I say that?
Hierarchy.
There's a lot of, it's a hierarchy. You know, you can be public and then staff, and in staff, you know, executives, and then there's different orgs, and Sea Org, and then in Sea Org there's different levels, and everyone's above somebody else, all the way up to Miscavige, who lords over everybody else. But some people take advantage of that extra bit of power, and whoever's below them, they often, you see it where there's some yelling and screaming and people treating others not that nice. So, but yeah, we were on. I didn't really. Oh, and then Willie got pregnant, and then we moved out west. We moved to Winnipeg, and we weren't there very long because I knew that the winter was coming in Winnipeg. So I said, let's go to Calgary. We moved to Calgary. We were there for 2.5 years, and there was an org in Calgary, and I knew the guy who ran the Guardian's office in Calgary at the time. But in the 2.5 years we were there, I was only in that org once. And that was just to deliver some papers to the guy who asked me to bring him. And but we never did it. And part of the reason for that, anytime we were active in Scientology was when my sister was around. She was the one who would push all of us all the time, push us to do stuff. And so all the Scientology we really did was when we were in Toronto. But once we moved to Florida, she'd call me once in a while and want to push us. But pushing from up in Canada down there is a little bit more difficult. push it all. I would never go back in. There's nothing in this universe that would get me to go back into Scientology. And we had that offer at one point, sort of. No, not the offer to go back. We did get a call from our daughter at that time, and she had like all her OSA handlers in the room with her. We could hear them in the background, and the billboards, and a lot of criticizing of Scientology. So the deal was, if we stopped doing the TV show, the billboards, and the criticizing, that we could have a relationship with the kids. But I know Scientology would never honor that anyway. So I just said, look, I'll agree to all three of those things. I'll agree. I'll do all three of those things. And there was a bit of silence because it was like, oh, what? What? He's going to do all that? I said, yeah, you just have to do one thing for me, and that is end disconnection for all the families that have suffered from Scientology disconnection. And no, this is about you. And I said, no, it's not just about me. It's about all the people who have been hurt by this. Anyway, it sort of escalated a little bit until finally she was halfway through a sentence and the phone cut off. So I think somebody hung it up because they knew they weren't getting anywhere. So it was not an offer to get back into Scientology, but it was an offer to kind of get back in touch with the kids. But Scientology would never honor that. They would go, okay, well, now you got to pay a bunch of money, and you got to write up all these crimes that you are about, and you have to let us know every person you ever talked to about Scientology, any reporters, any of the. I mean, just I know the deal. I know what it would have taken, and in the end, they never would have let us have a real relationship with the kids. It would just be once every month. No, everything's good. Yeah, we're doing fine. Oh, got to run. Got a big project I'm working on. I'll talk to you later, and that would be it. So it wouldn't have been a real sit down, let's have a conversation kind of connection anyway. If it got that far, they might have just waited till we doing all the stuff we stopped doing the TV show. They'd stretch it out for a few months and then say, "Oh, I'm sorry. No, you can't back in the group." And I wouldn't have done it anyway. So, yeah, that was a tough one. But we're doing fine here in Niagara Falls. I mean, it's a nice area around here. I belong to a motorcycle group that we ride every week, and the countryside around here is just beautiful. It's like green, rolling hills, winding roads, and we're so close to the country out here. Literally 5 minutes. When we get together, we're 5 minutes away from the country, and we get on our bikes and just ride through the country and stop for an ice cream and ride back. It's really nice out here for that. And then sometimes we'll go down like just north of here. It's all wine country, and there's a lot of really pretty wineries here. And we have a couple of our favorites. We'll go down and for a glass of wine or some good food, and it's nice. It's a pretty area. I don't like the winters in Canada though. But yeah, if anybody does come out here, and I'd be happy to drive them around and show them. We had PTS for Life out here. Jeff, after his trip, all the stuff in Toronto and Cambridge and London, had him out for a day, and I drove them all around. Stopped at Carolina's Winery and had a nice lunch there. These enormous hamburgers, like really good, actually. It was really nice. Came out to see the falls. Yeah, if anybody comes out, I'd be happy to drive them around, show them the area. There's some beautiful stuff out here. And then there's, at the edge of the escarpment, there's an overlook that kind of overlooks the river that flows down towards Lake Ontario. On one side, you see Canada. The other side is the United States. It's beautiful. X took my 3 or 4 years. Yeah, Leon, you're right. It never would happen. They wouldn't have held. Scientology lies. I mean, they're not honorable at all. So, they never would have held onto their agreement. In their view, it's like they consider greatest good for the greatest number means, you know, what they'll do whatever they want to anybody who opposes them. That we had already done at that point. There's no way that they would have allowed us back in, or not even back in, but even in good graces at least. They just wouldn't have, because we had been serious thorn in their side for some time with those billboards. We had 2 billboards in LA and 1 billboard up in Florida. So, and at the time we were doing the TV show, we never aired. It was going to be on A&E. It was 8 episodes. It was already done and shot in the can and approved by the lawyers. But at the same time, Leah was getting her show together, and she has the celebrity. So I don't begrudge. I'd rather see our show on the shelf for the amount of coverage that her show ended up getting. Was a lot more than we probably would have had. You know, the whole bottom line is really did that. I mean, they got the word out big time with that show, and they got a couple of Emmys out of it. So you know, it was obviously well viewed. You know, as far as you know, being something that was respected. So, and we're still working on stuff. I mean. We've got some stuff that we are working on. It takes a bit sometimes in these things, but once we get close, I'll try to announce it here if I can, as close as I can. Hopefully before it all hits, but we never know. I'll see. But yeah, we're working on stuff for sure, and some really stuff that should have an impact. So you know, Scientology is shrinking. We saw that when we went and did the protest, those events, and the fact that they had at their ideal org in Cambridge, they only had 20 people attending their event, because for one thing, their name is so bad out there. It's the brand is done as far as a brand, from a marketing standpoint. They can kind of carry it on and bring some of the kids in, the 2nd generation, 3rd generation, and that's a tough one right there, because ones that grow up in it and don't know anything different, it's tougher sometimes for them to get out, and if they do get out, it is tough on them. You know, I've seen it with people who've been in the Sea Org for a long time, and it's tough. You know, they're beat up so bad, and the Scientology mind control part of it, even for pubs, start running the stuff on yourself. So anyway, we've had an hour, and I'm probably going to just shut it down at this point, because I'm probably running out of steam, and I don't want to start boring you guys. For a live stream, I thought I had it all figured out. I spent part of the week learning how to use the gimbal, and then how to do this sound microphone thing, and then plugging in. I could do it live. I could set up a live stream, but I couldn't figure out quite how to log on to a scheduled one. So I will figure that out by next week, and I will try to set up something cool. Maybe I'll go to Buffalo next week. I'll see. But I want to thank everybody for being here, and I want to just, you guys are awesome. You know, I tell you, the support out there is huge and so appreciated. Oh, from Denmark. Hello. Yeah, I've been in Denmark. Brief aside, 1986, I was in Denmark the day that Hubbard died. I found out by reading an article in a Danish newspaper. That's how I found out about it. So anyway, thank you everybody for being here. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Sometimes you feel like you're out here alone, but with you guys out here, I'm going to sit around. We'll get